Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of our F1 2021 My Driver Career Mode here on the channel. It's been, I think, like a week and a half since we've had it, maybe even like closer to 2 weeks since this has been on the channel. I was grinding out trying to make sure we get our NASCAR Heat 5 Career Mode done on time before NASCAR 21 Ignition that I didn't even have a chance to get to this or even play the F1 game. But now I've gotten into a spot where I'm comfortable that we can end the NASCAR Heat 5 career mode in time for NASCAR 21, so now we can get back on track with F1 for hopefully back to the usual 2 or 3 F1 career mode videos per week. So coming through into the Hungarian GP here today, we've had an up and down season, as you guys know, and we were coming off of the British Grand Prix, which was awful. It was so bad for us in that second sector. We just had no pace as expected because, not because I was slow, because the AI is bugged there and they just haul the mail no matter what. So that was definitely frustrating, but there was nothing we could do about it. So we jumped right through into the weekend here in Hungary. There was a threat of rain in the GP, so that was going to be something that we would have to keep an eye on, of course. So definitely hoping that it was going to stay away, but you never know how these races are going to go now. I felt like I had pretty decent pace here so far in the opening couple of practice programs I was doing now, as I'm noticing that as we get closer to the midway point, or we are in the midway point pretty much of the season, the summer break coming after today in Hungary, I'm noticing that our setups haven't been as competitive in these VPs compared to earlier in the season. So I was finding that interesting. I didn't know if I was going to need to find a new setup or not for this one, but I ended up just sticking with the one that I had from last season with the Haas F1 team. So coming through into the third and final practice session here, just trying to beat the qualifying pace, and I just barely beat the qualifying goal as we hit a 1:15.655, and we ended up coming into qualifying here with some pretty high hopes. Now our car continues to get better here with Aston Martin. We've been playing catch up ever since that last patch that came out with the R&D changes, and I know there is going to be another update coming out very soon here within probably the next couple of days for the new Red Bull livery that they ran in Turkey, as well as I'm hearing Imola might be coming as well. Very excited for the Imola track as well. That's a track that I've raced at in Project Cars 2, as well as the Assetto Corsa, and enjoy racing around there quite a bit. So here we were, though, focusing on our qualifying effort in just Q1, and I felt like I put up a half-decent lap, but it wasn't great, and I made some mistakes here and there, and it showed because by the end of the session, we were P16 going down to P17. We were about to get eliminated, so I had to come back out and do another lap, and we picked up a decent chunk of time here now as we gained 3/10 here in the first couple of sectors of the track now, and by the time we came through to the end of the lap, we gained over half a second, and that would be enough here to get us through at least into Q2. Not by much either. We were the first one in now, so definitely not looking good here in qualifying. And I can tell you that I've had a lot of experience at Hungary in past F1 games, and I've always had a history for some reason of qualifying way worse than I usually race at this track, so I wasn't surprised whatsoever to see I was having issues again with qualifying at Hungary now as we came through into the second qualifying session, hoping that I could find some pace that I was missing here. Wheeling the car around this track, it wasn't driving the greatest, but it was driving good enough to where I was pretty comfortable. Had a moment right there in the penultimate corner down through the sweeping right-hander, this final turn now very late in the session. By the way, this is my final attempt here to maybe get to Q3. Not gonna happen. We end up P14, just barely beating Antonio Giovinazzi there in the Williams. So we end up qualifying 14th, just behind our teammate of Sebastian Vettel. So Aston Martin as a whole looking a little bit off the pace coming into this race weekend, as we're going to send it over to Crofty and Davison here as we get ready to go lights out in Hungary.
Welcome to Budapest once again for another round of the Formula One World Championship. Historically, a good race for first victories, with Button, Hill, Alonso and Heikki Kovalainen all reaching the top step of the podium for the first time here. We're northeast of Budapest for the race today at the 2.7-mile Hungaroring circuit. 14 corners here, 8 to the right and 6 to the left, on a track where downforce is king and passing is notoriously difficult. It's race day yet again, and joining me for a chat, Anthony Davidson. And our racers are certainly in for a rough day today. What will you be watching for as they go down into turn 1?
Well, the start of the race is always one of the most nerve-wracking parts. You have to hope that everyone is able to get off to a clean start, and this is possibly the trickiest part of the entire race. So many drivers in such a small space, and finding your braking point into turn 1 as well. It's a testament to the driver's skill that there aren't more incidents.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. It's Sergio Perez on pole position today, and Valtteri Bottas will line up alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Hamilton, Charles Leclerc and Sainz, Norris, Russell, Tsunoda and Esteban Ocon, Vettel, the rookie, Antonio Giovinazzi and Ricciardo. They've taken a grid penalty. Ireland, Joe, Pierre Gasly and Nicholas Latifi. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Mick Schumacher and Lance Stroll brings the grid to a close. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head to trackside for today's race.
We're ready to get going here in Hungary. Sergio Perez on pole alongside Valtteri Bottas on the front row. Your point leader of Max Verstappen in P3 with Lewis Hamilton in 4th. Verstappen trying to run away with the World Drivers title right here as Hamilton has had a terrible final, 6, 7, 8 races ever since he was very strong in the first few, picked up some race victories. He has been terrible, hasn't even been on the podium, so it'll be interesting to see if he can maybe change that today now as we are ready to go green here. Lights out now. Sebastian Vettel there in P11 as we gain a few spots due to some grid penalties here, so looking pretty decent here as we get onto the grid now on the preferred side of the track for me here in Hungary now, as it's going to be 5 red lights. Perez, Bottas, your front row now. Will it stay the same as this lights out? We are green here in Hungary now as you got Perez with a pretty strong start right there, looking good for him already. Verstappen goes all the way to the left-hand side, or the right-hand side of the track, sorry, now as a side-by-side into turn 1, as now as I go into the corner, I'm actually going to get hit right there by Giovinazzi there. Sorry, no, that's Nicholas Latifi in the Williams, who just slammed into the side of me, damages my wing. Immediately we're going to be off the pace and having to pit at the end of the lap. Now at the front, it's a scrap between Bottas as well as Perez, Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. 3rd place, 4th place here as we head up towards this little quick left-hander. Now they're both side by side, both rows with the Red Bulls and the Mercedes now, but who is going to come out on top? Perez does not want to give up that potential race victory here today, and Verstappen, of course, going for every point he can get now as he's still side by side with Hamilton. Perez hangs on to the lead over Valtteri Bottas now, but Verstappen and Hamilton still side by side. Real life championship battlers, but not right now at this point in the season now, as it's going to be Verstappen getting out in front of Lewis Hamilton. Not a good start, of course, for myself. As you can see, I'm off the track here, hanging on for dear life with that wing damage. So I don't know why Latifi decided to just sail it off into turn 1 and hit me on the front wheel there and damage my wing. But unfortunate, Latifi did pick up some wing damage as well. So both myself and him are going to actually have to come into the pit lane here to fix our wings. So now we're hoping that weather comes here. And obviously, it all depends on timing. That rain could come and we might not gain anything, or the rain could come at a good time and we gain a lot of track position. That's the only way we're going to salvage anything other than a safety car. And when it comes to Hungary, don't really come to expect a safety car very often. So unfortunate circumstances here on the start of the Hungarian GP, coming off of a very, very rough British GP. Like I said, I don't really expect a safety car to come out in this episode, so it was just hoping that that weather hits at the right time to where we can maybe get some lucky way to get into the top 10 or something, or just some fighting opportunity. But it was going to be tough. I knew that now as we got back out on the track and we were trying to run down that Williams of Latifi, and it wasn't actually much of a challenge to run down Latifi whatsoever. Now, as we know, he's one of the slowest ones in the field here, so I was running him down very, very quick here, and it was just a matter of time on now the end of lap 4 coming to lap 5. Overtake mode on, DRS enabled here as we are going to make a lunge up the right hand side into turn 1, wasting no time with Latifi at a track that is known to be hard to pass. We actually quite easily pull off the pass on Latifi. So now what's going on at the front of the grid? Lap 7 already. Max Verstappen is going to come into the pits. Of course, he wasn't leading, but he comes in before Perez, he comes in before Bottas, so it'll be interesting to see if those guys are going to stay out in front of him, and of course, are they going to pit maybe within the next laps or so? Perez, sure enough, at the end of lap 7, coming to lap 8, brings it into his pit box alongside Lewis Hamilton, who's in. Bottas actually stays out. Perez loses a spot there to Lewis Hamilton, so not what Perez was looking for by any means here, who was leading the GP. Here comes Max Verstappen right here, trying the undercut on his teammate, and sure enough, it is going to be successful. Verstappen gets in front of Perez as well as Lewis Hamilton, not by much, but he makes it happen there as he got Giovinazzi there, even putting some pressure on the Mercedes for the time being now, as it would actually get worse for Lewis Hamilton here. Moments later on lap 8, he would end up having a mechanical failure. Hamilton, the 7-time world champion, is out of the Hungarian GP. Came up short of Valtteri Bottas last season, and now it looks like his championship hopes are non-existent this season. Now at the end of lap 8, coming to lap 9, no safety car came out. Bottas came in and put on the hard compound tire here, as we're going to see where maybe Verstappen shakes up against him now, as it looks like Verstappen might use that undercut to get out in front of everybody here now as he heads down this long front straightaway. He's on the medium tire, so Bottas, of course, looking at maybe going right to the end there, as they're going to be side by side into turn 1, but Verstappen ends up taking the lead now. So a nice little quick scrap right there, but Bottas obviously had no chance there. So coming to lap 12, you can see some cloud cover starting to roll in to the GP area, or to the track area now, so I'm hopeful that the rain is going to be here before I have to make any pit stop whatsoever. Now, the drama picks up, though. Perez would actually have a mechanical issue here on lap 13, as you see some smoke pouring out of the back of that Red Bull BMW. So very unfortunate for Perez now, who was looking in position to potentially win today. Everything went wrong with the pit stop, and now it got even worse as they are out of the race. So both Mercedes and Red Bull missing their number 2 drivers now. Yes, I just called Lewis Hamilton a number 2 driver here in this career mode. He has been having a rough season here compared to his teammate Valtteri Bottas now, as there was battles going on all over the place. The top 3, Tsunoda, Ocon, and our teammate of Sebastian Vettel, they haven't pitted yet. They're trying to stretch it to the rain, and Vettel was putting up one heck of a fight against Max Verstappen here now, as they're fighting for position, and Vettel is perfectly okay to do this, and that was backing up Verstappen, of course, to that front wing of Valtteri Bottas now, as there you see Verstappen there continuing to get aggressive, trying to make a move around the sweeping right carousel of Sebastian Vettel right there. Now, as if Vettel can make it to the rain before he ever has to make a pit stop, he is going to be on pace for a really good finish now. As we came through lap 17, Tsunoda and Ocon both decided to come into the pit lane. Vettel stays out, but now Bottas is going to go around the left-hand side into turn 1, and Vettel, he's not going to back down easy. He proved that with Verstappen. He's going to fight back right here through the exit of turn 1, down this little stretch into turn 2. Vettel trying to make that outside work here. It's not going to probably happen, and sure enough, Bottas up into second, Vettel down to third. But as that's happening, the rain is falling here as we come through to set our fastest lap of the race here now. So we have made it to the rain, so it's just down to the track actually getting wet. Fortunately, it was raining hard enough. It got wet very quick, the same exact lap. Sebastian Vettel, our teammate, comes into the pit lane, so Vettel is on track for a really good finish here today in the Hungarian GP, because he made it all the way to the rain, to the intermediate tires, without ever having to make a pit stop. So now you can see just how quickly this track got wet now as we came through to the end of lap 17. I'm bringing it in to the pit lane here to put on the intermediate tire, DRS disabled, so I felt like we came in at pretty much the perfect time here, so it worked out just great for us here now, as we have an opportunity to gain a lot of spots, because there's some drivers on the track who are still on the dry tire as well. So we've been playing catch up this whole GP, and now here's our opportunity to strike and make up a ton of ground here as we put on those inters and get back out here. So we're about to see where we cycle out compared to everybody. We passed a Haas, we passed even Pierre Gasly in the AlphaTauri, we got as well past a Alfa Romeo, I believe that was Callum Ilott we got past there. So I see Guan Yu Zhou just up in front of us here, so up into P13, so we have gained some ground here, and it's looking pretty good for us because there's still drivers, of course, out on the track on the dry compound. So we would cycle out into P11 here on lap 20 after everybody had made their pit stops for the intermediate tires. What a rebound here. If we can get points today without the safety car assisting us and just using the weather to our advantage, what a day that would be here in Hungary. We were putting the pressure back on Guan Yu Zhou, but you guys know in Hungary it's tough to pass, and I was having a miserable time. I could get to the gearbox of Guan Yu Zhou, but I couldn't pass him him a bit of a moment right there, but I was committed. Overtake on the ERS, trying to make a move right here. Down into turn 1, a lap 24 around the left-hand side here of Guan Yu Zhou. He goes a little bit deep into the corner now as I try to stick it around that left-hand side on the exit of turn 1. Some grip loss right there, and that kept me out of it. So unfortunately, couldn't make the move right there down into turn 2, so we would have to settle in again behind him. It was all just about nailing that final corner, and finally we did exactly that with 10 laps to go. A move again to the left-hand side of Guan Yu Zhou, but this time even better into turn 1. We're ahead of him on the exit of the corner now, actually wheel to wheel here, but we get a better exit right there. He's going to try and fight back on that right-hand side. Gasly ready to pounce on an opportunity if it opens up as well here, as we're still side by side, but finally we complete the pass on Zhou and move up into the points here now, as we have 10 laps to make up 5.8 seconds on Lance Stroll in the Haas in his former Aston Martin. I honestly think we can pull that off now. That Haas is a lot slower, and I just felt like I had downright more pace than Stroll. So what was going on at the front of the grid though? Verstappen was still leading the way. Bottas, he was second place. Sebastian Vettel on track for a podium. George Russell in 4th in the Alpine, and then you got Yuki Tsunoda there in the top 5. Ricardo P6, Leclerc 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. At this point it says Zhou because I was recording this little part here as I was still battling him, but yeah, Lance Stroll there, P9, Esteban Ocon in P8, but now to lap 28, we had already cut the gap pretty much in half here, running down Stroll at a very good pace. Gasly was able to get past Guan Yu Zhou and continue to follow me here with less than a second separating myself and the AlphaTauri BMW. And it was just a matter of time until we would run down that Haas driver of Stroll. Now to lap 30, we had gotten to him. Gasly was even closer to myself. Sebastian Vettel on track to get a podium here in the Hungarian GP. Very cool to see our teammate now in position to do that here, as we are right to the gearbox on lap 32. 4 laps to go, and we know how hard it is to pass. Guan Yu Zhou was able to hold us up for quite a considerable amount of time, so I know we got to take any opportunity we can get here. I tried to maybe make him look right there, but I knew it wasn't going to be smart to make a move even there if it was dry, so definitely wouldn't have been smart to do it there in the wet. Unfortunately here with 2 laps to go, not quite close enough there to maybe make a move on Stroll. I am going to try and make a move though on the left-hand side. I tried to fake it out, deke him out, you could kind of say. Didn't quite work right there. We're right on his gearbox, so will we have an opportunity? No, we will not, because I nearly wrecked the car, but fortunately we didn't. DRS, by the way, enabled with 2 laps to go. The rain has stopped, and you can see how much it dried up by the time we start the final lap with DRS, with overtake mode on the ERS into turn 1. A lunge up the right-hand side. We pass Stroll. As that's happening, Verstappen has come through already to win the GP over Bottas. Sebastian Vettel, our teammate in the Aston Martin, is going to get a podium here today in Hungary, and we would just drive away from Stroll and Gasly here on this final lap. The track dried right up here now as we're struggling very hard to get through these final few corners, through that final sweeping right-hander, and what a rebound drive it was here today in Hungary now, as we are going to come through to cross the line for a 9th place finish here. And what I could consider maybe one of the drives of my career so far, and what a season and a half of our Formula 1 2021 My Driver career mode. Lance Stroll gets driver of the day over us. I'm a little bit disappointed about that.
It's a performance to be proud of today from our Hungarian Grand Prix winners. Anthony, tell me, what was it that helped them achieve this success?
I feel like consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
Here come today's winners. The team at Red Bull have done a phenomenal job recently. It's clear to see that they've put in the work, and they should be proud of the victory they secured here.
What a mega drive from us here in the Aston Martin, but an even better one there from Sebastian Vettel, who ends up on podium. A great day for Aston Martin in general. It would have been cool to see if we could have been up on the podium there as well, even with Sebastian Vettel. Maybe that would have been cool, but of course we had that first corner issue with Nicholas Latifi. That was unfortunate. Verstappen, though, increases his point lead to nearly 2 whole races over Bottas there. 49 points above him, and Lewis Hamilton Hamilton 7th in the driver's standings. It's pretty much over for Lewis Hamilton unless he finds some way to go on an absolute tear and win like 3/4 of the rest of the season, and still he would probably need Verstappen to have a couple of bad races. So crazy to see this downfall of Lewis Hamilton that started ever since the Japanese GP in the last season. So interesting to see that happen, like I said, and we'll see if we can bounce back maybe in the Spa race in the next episode there as we head to Belgium. So excited for that one, and then we'll have the summer break, and then we'll head back into the Netherlands at Zandvoort. So a lot of racing still left on the season. As always, if you guys enjoyed, you know what to do. I'd like to thank you all for taking the time out of your day to watch this episode. Now, as in the next one, we head to one of the most challenging tracks on the F1 circuit, going up through Eau Rouge and Raidillon and whatnot, as it'll be an exciting one. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day, everybody.